out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Good morning. As part of today's worship, I've asked three among us, Cathleen Carr, Elise Bender, and Sky Kimball, to share how they're preparing for this election. I purposefully chose not to give guidance, so their answers range beautifully from the emotional to the practical. So we begin our service today with the words of Cathleen Carr.
Hi, this is Cathleen Carr. How am I preparing for this upcoming election, you ask? Well, I like to think I'm being both sensible and spiritual. Sensible, I'm making sure that our tanks are filled with gas, the fridge is stocked, the pantries are stocked, we've got toilet paper, we've got everything we need, batteries. You know, why not? Spiritually, I like to make funny dance videos right now and send them to my friends. I go on early morning walks and I really try and capture the leaves in my mind before they all go away. And every night before I go to bed, I step outside and I look up at Jupiter and Saturn because they're very bright in the sky right now. And it makes me feel two things. One, that I'm in a neighborhood that's both far and close. And two, it ignites my childhood wonder, which makes me feel invincible and curious and joyful. So that's what I'm doing with these silly times we're living in. Be well, love to all.
I light this chalice to remind us of the light of this community, of the love that holds us all, and of our deep interconnectedness. I invite you to join me in the recitation of our shared covenant. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I sometimes wonder if any of us are sleeping through the night these days. More than once, I've joked about having an open Zoom room from, say, 3 to 5 a.m. in the morning, when those of us that are awake and anxious might want comfort from each other, hear each other's fears about the election, and so much more. Because our bodies and our spirits, they feel the intensity of this moment. Between a pandemic, working to vote out a brutal authoritarian figurehead, and worrying about so much else, there's a lot on the line here. So much. And I know that you know this. I know that you've been writing postcards and making phone calls and sending texts and doing so much more towards a safe and peaceful transition of power to a more just government.
Hi, I'd like to talk to you about how I'm preparing for Election Day. For me, there are really 4 parts to it: participating in the election process, getting perspective, finding ways to de-stress, and then trying to look beyond the immediate political finish line. So, in terms of participating in the election process, very straightforward. Just make a plan to vote and then vote. So the plan can be early in person, it can be vote by mail, it can be in person on Election Day. You have a wide variety of choices. Then just make that plan, know where you're going to vote and when and how, and then carry that out. You're done. The other part of participating in the election process for me is to support candidates and issues that I care about. So that brings us to the second part, getting perspective. I often ask myself, what's the very worst that can happen? And then, if it does happen, then what? Having a concrete idea of what the actual impact of the very worst case is can put things in a broader perspective. I also try to look carefully at what really matters to me. Particular issues may come and go, but for me, for instance, a core value is protecting and enhancing American democracy. And then the last part for me in terms of getting perspective is recognizing that fear is being used as a political tool. So as much as I can, I try to put myself beyond the reach of that fear and exercise judgment about what's really worth being concerned about. So that brings us to part 3, finding ways to de-stress. This is very straightforward and it's very individual. For me, some things that work are enjoying nature, visiting with friends, knowing when to turn off the news, using meditation, visualization, and movement to help me feel renewed and have more energy. So that brings us to part 4, trying to look beyond the immediate political finish line. So let's face it, no matter who wins, there will still be work that we need to do, and it will make a difference that we actually do that ongoing work.
I wish I thought that we'd get to election eve and this would all end easily. I pray and I hope for that, and I know you do too. But we don't know. And the not knowing, it takes a really big toll on us. 1 or 2 mornings every week at home, Mimi and I do a taped workout. And the fitness instructor is always lovingly admonishing us or reminding us, remember to breathe. Don't hold your breath. And almost invariably, I'm not remembering to breathe. I am holding my breath. And every time I use that reminder to begin to regulate my own breathing, and seemingly magically, the workout feels easier, less strenuous, more doable. And then I forget again. And that's true here too. It's exhausting on some core level to live with this worry or to use the energy needed to manage it. This is existential fear. And our usual coping mechanisms, they don't work that well here. And I think we keep forgetting to breathe. Because we wonder, what will our future bring? Will there be armed conflict or even civil war as the Trump presidency wants us to believe? Even if Biden and Harris win by a landslide, how do they begin to fix all that's broken, make right all that's wrong? So I acknowledge there's ample cause for fear. But to stay there would be to let the demons, and I use that word both metaphorically and literally, it would be to let the demons win. To fall prey to the all or nothing thinking that this administration has tried so hard to convince us of. But that fear we feel, it's only part of the truth.
Hi everyone, my name's Elise, and I was asked by Reverend DL to answer a question, how am I preparing for this election? I have limited my time in which I allow myself to watch the news, mostly MSNBC and BBC. This helps me keep abreast with the political scene as the November 3rd election approaches. To prepare myself for the worst outcome, let's hope that doesn't happen, but hope for the best. I have viewed every debate and was able to draw my own conclusions from the information put forth from the candidates. Secondly is intellectually. I've done extensive reading of articles, both in print, also online and social media. I have had many conversations with many friends who are of different ethnic backgrounds, as well as a variety of occupations. We have discussed our feelings, our needs, our ideas, our thoughts, and we have supported each other during this very difficult time and this time of upheaval that we are now living in. I have also applied all of these tactics to the local elections, helping me feel that I have chosen the best candidates that will represent our school system, our town council, our state representatives, and our Senate. I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight as to how I have approached this election. So we try to do the best that we can with what we have.
A few weeks ago, we watched a new Netflix movie, The Social Dilemma. It's a super depressing movie, and I highly recommend it. And here's why. The movie addresses all the ways that social media has deeply, imperceptibly, and grandly manipulated us. It's scary and it's shocking in ways that I had never even thought about. And yet, one of the most depressing conclusions is also, I think, the most hopeful. Because the conclusion is that bifurcation, the hatred, the inability to communicate across differences, it's caused, in part at least, by those same social media platforms. And what's exciting to me is if the problem isn't essential to humans, if the problem is human-made, then it can be human-fixed. And without denying the reality of the present moment, and I don't, I believe that underneath the fear and the anger and even the violence are communities that live in silos of self-reinforcing information. It's not hard to conclude, if all one hears is hate, that hate is the only option. And as some of you know, I got swept up in that hate for a while myself, and I allowed that to propel me forward. Because it's not a hard place to go when one's beloveds are being frightened, tortured, killed. But it's not the answer. It's not my answer, and it's not the answer that Unitarian Universalism offers us. Unitarian Universalism grew out of a deep yearning for discovering new layers of truth in community, and sometimes things we couldn't even yet name by ourselves. We learn and continue to learn to hold each other in the love of community, working and waiting for those deeper truths to emerge. And the world needs that. Our world needs people that haven't given up on humanity, that see, even in the most awful of times, some shred of inherent worth and dignity, some shred of humankind in everyone. And it's there that we find hope, that we can remember to breathe, because we know that it's the same battle it's always been, even if writ large. The battle is to learn ways to find ways to learn to walk each other home. And I won't say that I know how to meet hate with love, not entirely. But I'm working on it, and I invite you to join me in remembering, even now, our shared humanity, that what brings us together is more than what divides us. In the words of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. No matter what happens, we are a people of love. That is our guiding light. That is our path forward, the central point of the covenant we share with each other each and every week. So however you're preparing for Election Day, I offer 2 pieces of advice. Take time to breathe. Again and again, return to that core truth that the breath moves in and moves out, keeping us alive, grounded, here. And 2, keep moving towards love. However you define that. Seek love. Share love. In the words of that hymn that we sing so often together, love will guide us through this dark night. Blessed be.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Our closing words today are by Mason Bolton, a Boston-based poet. Good morning. I missed your good because a plane, a truck, because a gun, a cop, because of government, because of people suffering, because too many people suffering, because war, because famine, because some mornings it is so hard to rise, to wake, to be a self. There is a pause here. There is a deliberate cessation. I want a cessation to the noise in my head, to the ache in the collective heart of this world. When I was young, this seemed possible. When I was young, how hope seemed to spring eternal. I want to write about butterflies, about the cracked edges of tree bark pressing like a holy mother into palms. I want to write about the joy of children's cries, about birth, about the arch of your smile, how I could lose myself in the corners of your sweet and gritting mouth. This you is you reading this. I want for your joy. I want to lose myself in you. I want your mornings good, your evenings good, your late afternoons and sunrises and afternoons and moments pressed against the ticking glass of your life to be good. Breathe for yourself and for each other. Let us breathe in when others cannot, when we can do nothing else. Let us stretch ourselves open to embrace friends, to extend our bodies open to anyone willing to meet us, and even to those we think may not. Let us hold each other for this moment, for this blink of human existence.
Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.